Athletes, gather around. Let's talk about an interesting little paradigm shift, and that is what happens to you in early recovery. When you've been rattled with addiction for so long, you may think that change is impossible. You may even think lining up to even jump in the game of sobriety is going to be an ultimate task you're not willing to really jump into. But I'll tell you, most people fail because they don't understand the complexities of what early recovery looks like. There are times when you're gung-ho, you want to get in there, you want to be the savior of the game, you're going to be the quarterback, you're going to take control of life, only to get out there to get sacked or to fumble the ball. This is an interesting paradigm shift in your thinking and to be prepared for if you find yourself early in recovery. Here's 5 tips to help you understand why being early in recovery is a little bit more difficult than you might have thought. Number 1, no more can you be around other people that use. More often than not though, number 1 tripping block, the stumbling stone, is because you don't know how to associate or recreate with sober people. They're an interesting breed. You're used to a lot of other kind of pursuits and hobbies and interests. And then all of a sudden one day you're surrounded by a bunch of normal people who are kind of boring, right? Well, not necessarily, but what happens more often than not is that our excitement and our willingness to engage actively in sobriety ends up being sabotaged because we hang around people that still have old ideas in mind. It's a sad thing because we're having you change so much about yourself. I'm asking you to step up to the plate and to leave that stuff behind, which means the reality of leaving relationships because they don't want to leave that addiction is very real. And so you might find yourself associating with new people that still have the drug problem, and being able to exhort yourself, being able to experience new relationships that have different commonalities is a little stressful, especially if you're an adult. Remember when you were a kid, you could walk up to any playground and you can say, hey kid, you want to go play? And then you could go play and how great. You don't know this kid, but he's about your height, about your age, your best friends. And that's a little weird as an adult, right? You would never walk into a playground now and be like, hey adult, want to go play? You might get arrested for that. But surrounding yourself with new people is a little bit intimidating. That's why I recommend Team Addict II Athlete. Come join, be part of the team. Experience the 5Ks, the recreation, the hiking, the team. Number 2, leftover feelings of anger or sadness, and a lot of irritability. These are all things that you're going to feel and experience, especially in early recovery. And a lot of it is because these emotions that you've been able to suppress so long and numb out with your drug of choice are now very open and very aware that that substance is no longer going to be a cover. It's going to be very much in the forefront of your brain's mind on how to cope with those feelings. Feelings of anger, feelings of sadness, irritability. You've got to keep those things in check and get around to the backside of what's really pushing those things. Nothing can sabotage you faster than getting angry or being irritable or maybe getting too deep in the sadness. That's where healthy eating and healthy recreation and socializing comes into play. These are aspects of emotional turbulence that really need to be balanced if you're going to be able to stay on the path. Number 3, boredom and loneliness. Think about that for a second, right? When you're in the pursuit, the drive, the finding of, the gathering of your drug of choice, you never really are bored or lonely. You have enough people that want to use you or be with you while you're using, and the pursuit in and of itself can be a little bit intoxicating. But when all of a sudden you become a normie, you might find yourself not remembering what your hobbies or interests were before you even started. Being bored is typically how you got driven into an addiction anyway. So instead of overcompensating by getting involved in so much that you don't have any time, it's where you start to create balance. That's why on Team Addict II Athlete, we don't just focus on health and recreation, we focus on service and education and other aspects of the team that will help you fill in the void so that you don't feel so alone, so that the boredom doesn't really ever grab and take hold. It's a huge lifestyle change and it's going to be real difficult if you don't recognize it. Number 4, oh, that guilt and that shame. Now that your brain's starting to come out of the fog, you're starting to remember all those broken promises, broken relationships, and things that you're not so proud of. Well, this is a great time for you to understand that there's 2 very different things between guilt and shame. Shame means you are a problem. Guilt means you have a problem. Make sure you understand the difference between the 2 and then be able to gear yourself on to and then be able to establish yourself in an area of working on those mistakes, taking accountability, erasing and replacing, turning that mess into a message. There's a lot of things you can do to help promote yourself through action-oriented experiences, not just verbal-oriented experiences. I promise I'm going to change this time. Yeah, right, you say that all the time. You will gain more traction by doing than you ever will by saying. It'll also help eliminate and dissolve those feelings of guilt. Number 5, making mistakes. athletes early in recovery, you're gonna make mistakes. You cannot focus on when you drop the ball, when you fumble a play, when you step out of bounds. You've got to be able to be focused on what's coming next. If our mistakes, even small by nature, have the potential to ruin us and to eliminate our chances of play on the field, to actively engage in recovery, you will never be able to move forward. You'll stay stuck on the bench, and you will forever be typecast as a bench warmer of life. We don't want that for you. Small mistakes are opportunities to change and opportunities to grow. And when you combine those things to learn how to become a better player of sobriety, you're gonna see more playing time. You're gonna increase your emotional wealth. You're gonna be able to give back to your community in a way that you never thought you could. And you're gonna be a person of integrity, which is what we ultimately want for you. Because in the end, early on in recovery, things seem a little bit more challenging than later on in life. But this is where the real change occurs. And definitely turn your mess into a message.